Shemu'el 1, 1 Samuel chapter 13. Shaul was years old when he began to reign, and when he had reigned 2 years over Yisrael, Shaul chose for himself 3,000 men of Yisrael, and 2,000 were with Shaul in Michmash and in the mountains of Bethel, and 1,000 were with Jonathan in Gibeah of Benjamin. And the rest of the people he sent away, each to his tent. And Jonathan smote the watchpost of the Philistines that was in Gibeah, and the Philistines heard of it. And Shaul blew the ram's horn throughout all the land, saying, "Let the Ephraim hear." And all Yisrael heard the news that Shaul had smitten a watchpost of the Philistines, and also that Yisrael had become a stench to the Philistines. And the people were summoned to Shaul at Gilgal. And the Philistines gathered to fight Yisrael, 30,000 chariots and 6,000 horsemen, and people as numerous as the sand on the seashore. And they came up and camped in Michmash, east of Beth Awen. And the men of Yisrael saw that they were in trouble, for the people were distressed, and the people hid in caves, and in thorny bushes, and in rocks, and in holes, and in pits. And Ephraim passed over the Jordan to the land of Gad and Gilead. But Shaul was still in Gilgal, and all the people followed him trembling. And he waited for 7 days, according to the appointment with Shemu'el. But Shemu'el did not come to Gilgal, and the people were scattered from him. And Shaul said, "Bring a burnt offering and peace offerings here to me." And he offered the burnt offering. And it came to be, as he had finished offering the burnt offering, look, Shemu'el came. And Shaul went out to meet him, to barak him. Then Shemu'el said, "What have you done?" And Shaul said, "Because I saw that the people were scattered from me, and that you did not come within the days appointed, and that the Philistines gathered at Michmash, so I said, the Philistines are going to come down on me at Gilgal, and I have not appeased the face of Yahuah. So I felt compelled, and offered a burnt offering." And Shemu'el said to Shaul, "You have been foolish. You have not guarded the command of Yahuah, your Elohim, which he commanded you. For now Yahuah would have established your reign over Yisrael forever. But now your reign is not going to stand. Yahuah shall seek for himself a man after his own heart, and Yahuah shall command him to be leader over his people, because you have not guarded what Yahuah commanded you." And Shemu'el arose and went up from Gilgal to Gibeah of Benjamin. And Shaul mustered the people who were present with him, about 600 men. And Shaul and Jonathan his son and the people who were present with them remained in Gibeah of Benjamin, while the Philistines camped at Michmash. And from the camp of the Philistines raiders went out in 3 companies. The one company turned to the way that leads to Ophrah, to the land of Shaul, and another company turned toward the way of Beth Horon, and another company turned toward the way of the border that overlooks the valley of Zeboim toward the wilderness. Now no blacksmith could be found in all the land of Yisrael, for the Philistines said, "Lest the Ephraim make swords or spears." And all Yisrael went down to the Philistines, each one to sharpen his plowshare and his mattock and his axe and his sickle. And the charge was a pim for the plowshares and the mattocks and the forks and the axes, and to appoint the goads. And it came to be on the day of battle that there was neither sword nor spear found in the hand of any of the people who were with Shaul and Jonathan, but they were found with Shaul and Jonathan his son. And the outpost of the Philistines went out to the pass of Michmash. Shemu'el 1, 1 Samuel chapter 14. And it came to be one day that Jonathan, son of Shaul, said to the young man who bore his armor, "Come, and let us go over to the outpost of the Philistines, which is on the other side." But he did not inform his father, And Shaul remained at the outskirts of Gibeah under a pomegranate tree at Migron, and the people who were with him were about 600 men. And Ahiah, son of Ahituv, Ichabod's brother, son of Phinehas, son of Eli, the Kohen of Yahuah in Shiloh, was wearing a shoulder garment, and the people did not know that Jonathan had gone. And between the passes by which Jonathan sought to go over to the outpost of the Philistines, there was an edge of a rock on one side and an edge of a rock on the other side. And the name of one was Bozez, and the name of the other Sini. The one edge was on the north opposite Michmash, and the other on the side opposite Gibeah. And Jehonathan said to the young man who bore his armor, "Come and let us go over to the outpost of these uncircumcised. If so be, Yahuah works for us, for there is no hindrance for Yahuah to save by many or by few." And his armor-bearer said to him, "Do all that is in your heart, incline yourself, see, I am with you according to your heart." And Jehonathan said, "See, we are passing over to the men, and show ourselves to them. If they say to us, 'Wait until we come to you,' then we shall stand still in our place and not go up to them. But if they say this, 'Come up to us,' then we shall go up, for Yahuah has given them into our hand, and this is the sign to us." And both of them disclosed themselves to the outpost of the Philistines, and the Philistines said, "See, the Ephraim are coming out of the holes where they have hidden." And the men of the outpost called to Jonathan and his armor-bearer and said, "Come up to us, and let us teach you a lesson." Then Jonathan said to his armor-bearer, "Come up after me, for Yahuah has given them into the hand of Yisrael." And Jonathan climbed up on his hands and knees with his armor-bearer after him, and they fell before Jonathan, and his armor-bearer was putting them to death behind him. And that first slaughter which Jonathan and his armor-bearer made was about 20 men in about half a yoke furrowed field. And there was trembling in the camp, in the field, and among all the people. The outpost and the raiders also trembled, and the ground shook, and it became a trembling of Elohim. And the watchmen of Shaul in Gibeah of Benjamin looked and saw the crowd melting away, and they went here and there. And Shaul said to the people who were with him, "Please inspect and see who has gone from us." So they inspected and saw that Jonathan and his armor-bearer were missing. And Shaul said to Ahiah, "Bring the ark of Elohim here." For the ark of Elohim was with the children of Israel on that day. And it came to be while Shaul talked to the Kohen that the noise which was in the camp of the Philistines went on and became great. So Shaul said to the Kohen, "Withdraw your hand." And Shaul was called, and all the people who were with him, and they went to the battle. And see, every man's sword was against his neighbor, a very great confusion. And the Ephraim who were with the Philistines before that time, who went up with them into the camp, turned round, they too, to be with Israel, who were with Shaul and Jonathan. And all the men of Israel who had hidden in the mountains of Ephraim heard that the Philistines fled, and they also pursued them in the battle. Thus Yahuah saved Israel that day, and the battle passed over to Beth Awen. And the men of Israel were distressed that day, for Shaul had placed the people under oath, saying, "Cursed be the man who eats food until evening, and I have taken revenge on my enemies." Therefore none of the people tasted food, and all the land came into the woods, and there was honey on the ground. And the people came into the woods and saw the honey dripping, but no one put his hand to his mouth, for the people revered the oath. But Jonathan had not heard that his father had taken an oath of the people, and he stretched out the end of the rod that was in his hand, and dipped it in a honeycomb, and put his hand to his mouth, and his eyes lit up. Then one of the people said, Your father strictly took an oath of the people, saying, 'Cursed be the man who eats food today.' And the people were weary. And Jonathan said, 'My father has troubled the land. Now see how my eyes lit up when I tasted a little of this honey. How much better if the people had well eaten today of the spoil of their enemies which they found. For then would not the smiting among the Philistines have been greater?' And they smote the Philistines that day from Michmash to Aijalon. So the people were very weary, and the people pounced on the spoil and took sheep and cattle and calves and slaughtered them on the ground. And the people ate with the blood. And they told Shemu'el, saying, 'Look, the people are sinning against Yahuah by eating with the blood.' And he said, 'You have acted treacherously. Roll a large stone to me today.' And Shemu'el said, 'Disperse among the people and say to them, each one bring his ox near to me, and each one his sheep, and you shall slaughter them here and eat. And do not sin against Yahuah by eating with the blood.' So every one of the people brought his ox with him that night and slaughtered it there. And Shemu'el built an altar to Yahuah. It was the first altar he built to Yahuah. And Shemu'el said, 'Let us go down after the Philistines by night, and plunder them until the morning light, and not leave a man of them.' And they said, 'Do whatever seems good to you.' But the Kohen said, 'Let us draw near to Elohim here.' And Shemu'el asked of Elohim, 'Should I go down after the Philistines? Do you give them into the hand of Yisrael?' But he did not answer him that day. And Shemu'el said, 'Come over here, all you chiefs of the people, and know and see what this sin was today. For as Yahuah lives, who saves Yisrael, though it be in Jonathan my son, he shall certainly die.' But not one among all the people answered him. And he said to all Yisrael, 'You be on one side, and my son Jonathan and I be on the other side.' And the people said to Shemu'el, 'Do what seems good to you.' Then Shemu'el said to Yahuah, Elohim of Yisrael, 'Give a perfect one.' And Shemu'el and Jonathan were taken, but the people escaped. And Shemu'el said, 'Cast between my son Jonathan and me.' And Jonathan was taken. Shemu'el then said to Jonathan, 'Explain to me what you have done.' And Jonathan explained to him and said, 'I only tasted a little honey with the end of the rod that was in my hand. Let me die.' And Shemu'el answered, 'Elohim do so and more also, for you shall certainly die, Jonathan.' But the people said to Shemu'el, 'Should Jonathan die, who has wrought this great deliverance in Yisrael? Far be it! As Yahuah lives, let not one hair of his head fall to the ground, for he has wrought with Elohim this day.' Thus the people rescued Jonathan, and he did not die. And Shemu'el returned from pursuing the Philistines, and the Philistines went to their own place. And Shemu'el took the reign over Yisrael, and fought against all his enemies round about, against Moab, and against the children of Ammon, and against Edom, and against the sovereigns of Zobah, and against the Philistines. And wherever he turned, he caused trouble. And he gathered an army and smote the Amalekites, and delivered Yisrael from the hands of those who plundered them. And the sons of Shemu'el were Jonathan, and Yishwi, and Melchishua. And the names of his two daughters were these: the name of the firstborn, Merab, and the name of the younger, Michal. And the name of Shaul's wife was Achinoam, the daughter of Achimaaz. And the name of the commander of his army was Avner, son of Ner, uncle of Shemu'el. And Kish was the father of Shemu'el. And Ner, the father of Abner, was the son of Aviel. And there was fierce fighting against the Philistines all the days of Shaul. And when Shaul saw any mighty man or any brave man, he took him for himself.